All right, we're rolling here. All right, guys, I am super excited. I have a very special guest here with me today, Jeff Allen from Cornerstone K9. Jeff and I have been working together for quite some time now, and it's been a pleasure helping him grow his business and run his marketing for him. So, Jeff, why don't you just kind of kick it off, man? Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started as a dog trainer.
So took my first dog training class when I was like a little kid in 4-H. It didn't count. But, I've had dogs like my whole life, and I know like a lot of dog trainers say that. But you know, that's probably something that you should hear come out of a dog trainer's mouth. But yeah, I took my first class when I was probably like 7 or 8 years old at 4-H in this big horse stable. I don't know if I learned anything, but
where was this?
So my dad lived in Indiana, my mom lived in Kentucky. My mom lived on this big like horse ranch. So I was bouncing back and forth, and then moved with my mom in Kentucky. And so yeah, I don't think the little kid 4-H thing had any bearing on anything. But I just like telling people that.
Yeah, those are your roots. That's your origin story.
Yeah. Then I was I don't know, young teenager, and I moved down to Kentucky. And my mom had a big like horse ranch and stuff like that. And
oh, nice.
So I actually first started training horses, which a lot of people don't know. I was Wranglers, boots, buckle, cowboy hat.
I was a serious cowboy, Yellowstone.
Yeah. I was decked out.
Yeah,
but it was for work, not show. So
right.
That's important.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a picture of this.
Yeah. Yeah, so I trained horses. I green broke horses, worked with horses for people that, you know, had issues and things like that, like crossing streams and whatnot. And then I did some team roping, never on like rodeo circuit or anything like that, but just like around our place and all that. So did that for a long time, and then went in the military, was an 82nd Airborne. I'm probably a little older than what a lot of people think I am, so I got out of the Army like a long time ago. And kind of like bounced around a little bit, trying to figure out what I want to do when I got out of the military, which is pretty common. Yeah, this whole time I had a dog, so I was always working with a dog. And my wife got a job at K9, and she was office manager there. That was back when Jerry was living up north, and Janet was running the location down here. It's like 5 miles from me.
Oh, is that right? Janet Edwards was running it?
Yeah, Janet was running it then. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that. Cool.
Yeah, that's where my wife and Janet met, and now they're inseparable.
I was saying it's all coming together now.
Yeah,
the whole family tree here.
Yeah. So Jean was working there, and we had like one car, so I was coming, pick her up and things like that. And went there, pick her up. They were having a PSA club there at Tar Heel, and Janet was like, "Hey," and I think Janet and Gina were kind of scheming. Hey, you just got out of the military not long ago. You're in really good shape.
Yeah.
You want to put a suit on, a decoy? So I did, and I still have all those pictures, and dogs just like tearing me up, and I'm just smiling like I just won the lottery.
Yeah.
And so right then it's just, and that was like 2008 maybe.
Okay.
And I just went in. It was like a year after that I started training pet dogs, and then doing privates, and still working at Caterpillar all the way up to like a year and a half ago.
Right.
So I have really long days now, but I had really long days then. Also,
it's better than the alternative, right? Like to what you were doing before.
Yeah. And then I also used my my benefits and stuff that I had, and while I was working at Caterpillar, training all these pet dogs, I went to school, got a college degree. So I don't know how I did it now.
No excuses, man. You just been getting it done for the past decade now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. So
very cool. So yeah, so you got started just by Janet kind of got you in a suit and you just started decoying, and like, did you kind of just fall in love with it from there?
yeah, it's pretty much like 90% Janet's fault.
This is why we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, but she is like been a amazing mentor for me
Mhm.
year after year after year after year.
Right.
You know, we travel up there. Sometimes we'll go up there for have Thanksgiving with them. We go on trips and stuff, you know, together. So we've all gotten really close. But she is, even if that all wasn't the case, she's been amazing. And she's
Yeah.
helped me out a lot. And before I started Cornerstone, I actually was like really nervous about doing that because I took the long way around to learn all about dog training, right?
Mhm.
I got around this person, that person, this person, and was just like all over the place and just wearing myself down,
Yep.
learning from all these people that were like really good at what they do. And it was just being a sponge and working dogs. And, you know, you get around some really good mentors and some
Yep.
really good trainers, and you get your hands on a lot of dogs and you're doing it the right way. You'll learn a lot.
For
So
sure.
when I wanted to start Cornerstone K9, I asked her 2 or 3 times, and every time she was like, yes, you're more than ready. I don't know why
Mhm.
you haven't done it yet. And the third time she was like, Jeff, do it. Seriously.
Yeah.
And man, I sent in my paperwork like 2 or 3 days later to North Carolina and had the thing
Is that
ready.
right? To file like the LLC and stuff like that?
Yeah. And then it's just been like insane since then.
It
So
really has. Yeah.
yeah.
So when did the business officially launch? What was the month? And like, do you remember?
April 2020, I think, was the launch, and then
Okay.
2021 was,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And then was a lot of like because I had a lot of plans. So I had a lot of time. I should have started a long time ago. And I had
Mhm.
a lot of stuff laid out, a lot of plans. And I started like contacting companies and setting up like dealer networks and all this stuff. And so that from like April, I was taking in dogs, but I was just like building a super strong foundation.
Yeah.
So I was just laying rebar in that sucker.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, because the thing is like by the time you and I started working together, it wasn't like, hey, Kevin, we need to, start getting our first clients here. You were already getting leads, you were already getting clients. And like,
yeah,
I always kind of, use the analogy like the fire was already lit. It was kind of just like everything that we were doing was just like pouring gasoline on top of that fire.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
man. And
Yeah.
so like I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about your experience, like, working for Caterpillar and stuff like that, and just kind of like how that, because I've heard you mention that quite a few times now, and just all the management that you were doing there. It seems like it's prepared you pretty well for the
Yeah.
position that you're in now, because you're scaling quickly. You're hiring more and more trainers, and you kind of get to, as soon as you get another one hired, it seems like you'll go a couple months, and and then you'll be kind of forced into feeling like you need to hire another one just because it keeps growing. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, what is like kind of your background? How do you feel like that kind of like helped you out for your situation now?
So a cat, like I said, I had a lot of employees I had to manage. I had a lot of different aspects of managing those employees I had to do. I've was like the problem fixer, right? So cat's got a lot of the plant here. A lot of people don't know it, but we build like all the skid steers, that you see. They're sort of like bobcats. I hate telling people that, but the bobcats, and people are like, oh yeah, gotcha. So those are made here in Sanford. It's the highest velocity Caterpillar facility in the world. All up until a couple years ago, before we sent a couple of the skid steer models to India to be built, the lower emissions. All the skid steers for the last like 20 years that you see anywhere in the world came out of Sanford.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were building, when I left, we were running between 120 to 160 out of there a day.
Wow,
So
man.
I don't know
That's
where they are.
unbelievable. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what was your like official title at the company?
I was a section manager for operations. And
Okay.
then, the last few years I was there, I was section manager for logistics. So I got to see both sides of it. And I got to like work with an extremely high number of people from, different backgrounds, different neighborhoods, you name it. Like, and so I was a recruiter in the military too.
Right.
For a while back when 9/11 happened. That's how old I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to work with a lot of different people and in a very fast environment. So I had to get really good at dealing with people, understanding, listening to people, which is a big thing, like listening and understanding to people. So and not all managers there necessarily did that. They were in the same kind of job role that I was. But I always had, like, at the end of the year, our employees would do like pulse surveys and stuff on their manager, right? It was your time to like rip your manager apart, pretty much. And every year I was there, my end of year reviews from my employees, whether I had 45 employees or 100 employees,
Right.
my ratings were always like super, super high.
Yeah.
So I would always, I would take time to work with my employees, listen to their problems. Like, I would get to know, like, who's your husband, who's your wife, who's your partner, what's your kid's name, so they play sports. You got to know them all. A lot of people don't do that, and people appreciate that because it makes them feel special. So
yeah.
And it always made my teams there, really, really strong and high performing. So I started being sent around to different buildings, because we own multiple buildings around here, different buildings, to work with teams that were having issues. So then I ended up being like the fix it guy. So I was going around working with different teams that were having like production issues, quality issues, or just like drama.
Yeah.
I mean, people around. But so I would go to a team, fix that, get them up, get them running, leave that team, go to another one. And I did that for a good while. And then went to logistics and was in charge of all inbound logistics coming into all the plants here. So it was like an insane amount of transportation companies, and you name it, they delivered.
Right.
So dealing with all that massive warehouse, so a whole different side. I had to deal a lot with in both jobs and operations and logistics. I had to deal a lot with different software and programs and updates, and because there's always new stuff coming out for manufacturing, because construction manufacturing is always trying to catch up to automobile manufacturing, and automobiles, like, state of the art. So we were always chasing like BMW and benchmarking their plant and doing all that. So always having to learn new software and whatnot and all that. So all that stuff, when I started Cornerstone, made things a whole lot easier for me, because I was already really good with people. I didn't have to go through that phase as, oh, I'm a business owner now, I can't trust anybody, blah, blah. I didn't have to go through all that. I didn't have to go through, I'm scared to death to talk to somebody. I don't know how to coach somebody. I don't know how to open my ears and listen when somebody's talking, and like hear what they're saying, and not just let it pass through. Right.
Yeah.
So all that stuff that I did at CAT, like, just like funneled down and made my job a lot easier, and allowed Cornerstone to advance way faster.
For sure.
At least from my end, on that side of it, it was like having, somebody step in that's been doing this like a really long time. And like, at least with the people and all that, and just that part of it, like, really, catapulted and all that. And then
I mean, that's super powerful stuff. You can't overlook that. The fact that you have all this experience and training as well from a unbelievably profitable and successful company, right? Like, I don't know what their revenue is annually, but it's a lot, of course, right? And so like, you got that training and you were able to upload that into your own business. And so what I always tell people too is I think that sometimes people, when they are even working at somewhere like PetSmart or Petco, and they're like, they want to get out of there, they're burnt out from working there, But what I always tell people is like, hey, take some of the, leave all the bad stuff that you hate about it, leave that behind, but like take the stuff that you feel like they did well and bring that to your business, because they've already tested a lot of that for you, obviously
like
not the pricing. Yeah. We're not going to be doing $25 classes and stuff like that, but yeah, like, go ahead. What were you going to say?
It's just like journey of life. Like, it doesn't matter if you had the job that I had, with all that craziness, or you came from PetSmart or a gas station or wherever you came from. It doesn't matter. If you have a passion for doing something, and you're going to make that jump, and believe me, it was a scary jump for me because I was very comfortable. But you want to make that jump and follow your passion, then definitely pull from the good, dump the bad. You're your own, if you're going dog training and whatnot, you're your own boss.
It's so true, man.
Calculated risk.
Everything is a learning experience. I can't tell you how many times in my life I've realized that, like, years later, something that I felt like was so stupid and annoying at the time when I was doing it, and I felt like was a colossal waste of my time or whatever it may be, I'm like, oh, now that's kind of come to benefit me in this current situation. So you just never know how things are going to impact you. But I mean, I'll never forget, like, one of like the earlier on conversations that you and I had about your, talking about sales and stuff like that, because we were getting leads. And you just felt like, a lot of people were getting on the phones, and, some of them would convert and stuff like that. But you've largely moved to in-person consultations for yourself as well as your trainers, right? Yeah. And I'll never forget, like, we were talking about all of this, and, you use the example of like having to go into someone's house as, a recruiter and talk to them and effectively sell them on the fact that, like, hey, your son may be going off to war, right? And like, there's no harder sale than that. And I was like, man, that's very true.
I was scared to death. And then being like, God, I was 21 years old when I went. I was really young when I went in recruiting duty. I was one of the youngest out of the brigade I was in to go into recruiting duty, and I was scared to death, because here comes a 21, I might have been 22-year-old kid into your house telling you about how your kid that's just a few years younger than me should make a massive life decision to sign paperwork with the U.S. military and can possibly go and get killed.
Right. That's unbelievable. Yeah. There's no harder sale. There's no bigger objection you're going to have to handle than like a concerned parent, not wanting the child to go do that. Yeah. And like, I mean, just out of curiosity, like, how would you typically go about that?
So I would relate back. I had like a learning process, so it took me a little bit to kind of get my bearings on like how I was going to do that. But I took just to give you like perspective, and like I got it figured out because I took top recruiter for the state of Kentucky a couple times, which was crazy, and it wasn't what I was trying to do, but I figured out a way to use my age, and so my age, what I had achieved up to that point, and relate that back to like a parent's like emotional view of how they want their kid to succeed. So I came in, I was all clean cut, I was in a uniform, I already been to a deployment, here I am, recruiter, driving a government car, all this stuff. And they're like, damn, you're so young. And it's like, yeah, I did this and blah, 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 blah. But I would like relay this all in very carefully with parents that kind of paint the picture that your kid can be where I'm at now. There's no reason it can't. I'm nothing special. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. There's nothing special about me. I just have a lot of drive. And that's it. So, I would just relay all that to them and get them to understand that, like, hey, this is possible for their kid. It helped because I was a recruiter in Kentucky. I was from Kentucky. So the towns I had assigned to me, I was recruiting from, were like a lot of little country towns. A lot of people, it's like there's a bubble around the town. Nobody ever leaves. And I would relate that too. Like, hey, I'm not from a big town not far from here, and that'd be like, yeah, I did a horses, da 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 da, blah, blah, all this stuff. And I'm like, this is where I'm at, I we're a lot alike. and I would relate a lot of different stuff like that. And put a lot of people in the military. So, and I was in contact with the parents too,
Oh, wow. Okay. So you would stay in touch with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this is kind of like rolled over into your sales process, and we'll talk about that in a second here. But you just said something that really hit home with me as well when you were like, I'm not special, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I would say honestly, probably a lot of times you actually are, but but I feel the same way about myself. So much of this is like I think that we can be impacted about our experiences, coming up in the world and as a kid or in our teens or our 20s, and like largely we're measured at that point in our life about how well we do in school. And I was never the greatest student. I was lucky to find my way, and I'm like super passionate about what I do now and helping people grow their businesses. But man, I mean, if you're doing something you don't want to be doing, of course you're not going to succeed at it. And so this is all just to say that like anybody listening to this video, not to get too corny and emotional here, but become like a speaker here talking on like a motivational speaker. But the truth is, you don't need to have like a genius idea. You don't need to be a super high IQer to run any sort of like local service-based business, right? It's like you said, I just have the drive. I just have the desire to make this happen. I just show up. You just show up when you're supposed to be there. You do the right things every single day, and like you just kind of reap the rewards from that.
Yeah. And then I got a wife that won't let me stray off path.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a huge help too.
Keeps me zeroed in.
Yeah, I have one of those as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd love to talk some more about your sales process. So just kind of go back to like I remember having a conversation where you were doing some phone sales, and we kind of were talking about. I remember saying to you like, well, hey, have you ever done in person? You're like, yeah, I used to do that all the time. And, I actually have a lot of experience with that as a recruiter and stuff like that. So I'm not worried about going into people's homes. And so you were all on board as soon as it just kind of made sense to you, and you've just dove headfirst into that. And so I'd love to kind of hear like your experience with doing in-person consults, as well as, just like your mindset around like having to travel to people's homes to do it, the time that goes into that, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, first, I would like to say that when you brought that up to me, I was like, Jeff, you're a dumbass. You're doing that. Like,
well, it makes all the sense in the world when someone else says it.
That's why I was like, yeah. I don't know if I like agreed so fast. You're like, this guy's just telling me what I want.
Well, usually there's more of a fight. Usually people are like, I don't want to do that, because you were like, and I was like, that's it. You're not gonna rebut that.
I should have been doing that.
Yeah, exactly, man.
So we started like immediately, like when you like recommended that to me, like we started right away, and we've been doing it ever since. And it's been a huge game changer. We either, so like all aggressive dogs, behavior mod dogs, it's mandatory consult. With all other programs, we push the consults unless somebody's like, sign me up.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we'll sign them up. Other than that, we're doing consults.
Right.
I was doing them all myself. I was running all over the place, which I didn't mind. Yes, there's gas, but the rewards from doing that like far outweighed the gas.
Exactly.
If somebody's complaint is, well, it's so much gas. Okay, well, you're either not closing out enough leads, and if you're closing out the leads that you have, then you need to figure out how to get more.
Right, exactly.
It's something right there. It's not complicated.
Right.
Or you're not charging enough.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not charging what your worth is.
Right.
So I'd spent like, from that time till now, it's like that's all we do, and that's how we do things, and it's been very good for us. We were so busy, we're bringing on trainers and things like that, and I got where my responsibilities were splitting around. I might own Cornerstone, but I like training dogs. So I still take dogs and I train dogs because I enjoy it, right? But I had to, like, there came a point where I was like, I got to get somebody else to help on with this. So,
exactly.
So I ended up like, a girl that works for me now, Megan, I brought her on as a trainer. She's doing really good. She had a lot of experience, great personality. She's also in the military. And she like was just closing out consults left and right. And I slowly phased back. And now I just do consults that are like down here in Sanford. And like Megan handles like all those consults up there.
Yeah,
I ended up
exactly.
making her a manager, pay her a little bit more, well, more than a little bit every month to do that, because she does quite a bit.
Right.
But now that's just like running, and like she does that. But those consults is just like, you can't emotionally connect with somebody the way you can face to face. You can't talk to somebody on the phone and get a feel for them. You just can't. Like when I go to somebody's house, I will read all their notes, and I'll make sure, like, before I go in that house, I'll read through that stuff again, because I don't want to walk. I make sure that I walk in there like I know like everything. I remember everything that they told us.
Yeah.
I know their dog's name. I know
Exactly.
their name. I'm not like, hey, what's up, man? Is that your pup?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what's up, Bob? Is that, whatever, Tuck, whatever,
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Make it personalized.
yeah. So like right off the bat, he knows these guys are paying attention.
Right.
So even though it's like a little small win or whatever, but it's just like starting right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
But when I get in there, I'll scan the house like quick, and
Yeah.
I'm in North Carolina, so there's a lot of North Carolina and Duke stuff, and I'm a big Kentucky fan, and those teams hate each other.
Right.
So if I see anything Duke or North Carolina, man, I jump all over it.
Do you just kind of like give them a hard time, bust their chops about it?
I'll be like, oh, we can't do business together, and they're like, what? And I'm like, Carolina fan, man, I'm from Kentucky. Again, they're just like, oh,
yeah. People love stuff like that. Like who wouldn't?
Yeah. So anything I can see, if they got pictures of dogs or whatnot, and go in houses and people have lots of stuff of dogs, and I'm like, oh, you've been in dogs a long time,
Yeah.
So just anything.
Yeah, I remember you saying to me, like, you've been into someone's house and the guy has like a Dale Earnhardt poster, and you're like, oh, this guy likes Earnhardt,
Yeah. Just don't talk about turn 4. Whatever.
Exactly, man. You got to find something to relate on with them. I'm the same way.
I've talked to people. I went in people's houses and they didn't have anything in there, and I literally, this wasn't long ago. We booked her at the console. I talked to her for like 10 or 15 minutes about her floors.
I know. I've done that. I've done stuff like that too.
She had new hardwood floors, and their house was like empty.
Yeah.
Like, this is like a serial killer's house.
You're like, this is some nice drywall you got on the walls here.
Yeah, but she had a leak, and they had to get all ripped out, so that's why everything was in there.
That's so funny, man.
Yeah.
I've told this story many times now, but like, I was on a call one time and I complimented a guy on his beard. You know what I mean? Like, I could tell the guy loved his beard and like took really good care of it, and like his face lit up, and it's like, because if you can make some sort of connection with them other than just dog training and, hey, this is how much it costs, people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. They like I said earlier, I mean, people like feeling special, feeling good about themselves. Everybody does.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and a lot of people, they don't get that nowadays. They go to work, clock in, clock out, or salary or whatever. They go home, they eat, they watch some TV, they go to bed. Most people's lives are like that. So when you come in and you make somebody feel special, and you don't just, you come in, and I come in and I'll spend time. I don't care. I hear a lot of people say, we'll get there, I won't be there no more than 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I don't, but that's
right. Exactly.
I'll spend the first 45 minutes getting to know them if I have to. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. I love that about you, because I think back to even our like sales call that we did together before you became a client, and we talked for like probably an hour, maybe a little over an hour, just talking about business before I even said to you, hey, let's set up a time where we could talk about how we can help you. You gotta make people like actually believe, not just like feel like, but believe that you care about them, because it should be genuine.
You don't rush them to get their money, right? Because they get that every single day. You go buy a car, they're getting rushed and getting pushed.
Right.
You know, I sold cars for a while at Rick Hendrick Toyota, like time I got out of the military until I found something. So I was doing like Matt Big dealership. And so, I mean, I know how it is.
Yeah.
And people don't like that, and they don't trust car salesmen. I tell people all the time,
Yeah.
I'm like, I once I get to know them, I'll be like, listen, you know, I'm not going to pressure you, right? But I there is pressure, but it's not. It's all like they don't know it.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I'm like leading them where I want them to go and kind of like guiding them, and they're like bouncing off the bumpers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So leading them down. And I'm not like doing it in like a mischievous way or anything like that. Like I really am guiding them because I really want their dog to get good quality training. And I really truly believe that Cornerstone is the right place for them. So
yeah.
So I guide them, and I always keep them moving down. And I don't like pressure the hell out of people. I don't like tell them, hey, it's either you're gonna train with us or you're not. You know what I mean? I don't make them feel like that. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I even find that saying to people, because I just had a sales call before, and you know, I could tell that they really didn't, you know, and nobody wants to be like hard sold into anything. So if you tell them like, hey, I'm not going to give you a hard sell at the end of this, I just want to genuinely ask you some questions to see if I can help. Like you can see their, you know, people's guard will be taken down. Like just tell them, even just telling them that makes them feel like, okay, you know, he's acknowledging that he's not going to try and like force me into something I don't actually need or want here.
Yeah. And I'll tell people, I'll tell them like, hey, I'm not a car salesman. I'm not going to I'm not going to stand at your door and not leave and get you to like sign contracts and all that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
I'm here to answer all your questions. I know you have concerns, you know, I'm here to answer everything humanly possible that I can. And if I can't, then I will find an answer for you. I'll get it back to you today. I'm here to like educate you. And then if you decide Cornerstone is right for you, then we're going to know at the end of this consultation.
Right. Exactly.
And this is after I've spent a lot of time like getting to know. So, you know, sometimes you got their kids running in, climbing on me, you know,
that's the best, man. You know what I mean? Like when that's happening, you feel like these people feel comfortable around me. You know what I mean? Like there's no awkwardness here.
Yeah. And you know, I tell them about like my family and like my journey and stuff like that. And I don't go like deep into it because I'm not trying to be there like 2 or 3 hours getting at somebody, but I don't want to wear them down.
For crying on their shoulder.
You're gonna have to come back.
Yeah.
But like the whole time I'm doing that, unless it's like an aggressive dog or really bad, you know, like behavior mod or something like that. Usually their dog is like out and loose, and I'm like I'm watching this dog. The dog's I'm doing a lot of stuff with the dog that they don't even know, right? I'm like dog's coming up, and I'm being like, you know, kind of like super submissive, like posture, and like smell the back of my hand and not doing all that stuff. I'm getting the dog comfortable with me, and most of the time, you know, because a lot of people don't do that. They're like, oh, puppy, you know, some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And get the dog comfortable with me. And I hear it a lot when I go do consults. Like, wow, he warmed up to you so fast. And I'm like, yeah, I get. And I tell him, I'm like, man, bam, I'll jump on that quick. And I'm like, I get that a lot. And I don't know. I'll tell him, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but when I go do a consult, I have a lot of dogs that like take a long time to warm up people, and by the time I leave consult, they want to go and get my car. And they're like, hey, it's all awesome. And then like all those people book.
You don't shy away from that. Like if they say that to you, you're like, yeah, I get that a lot. Dogs feel really comfortable with me, because the thing is like that's what they want to see. You know what I mean? And it's the truth, you know. So you can lean into that. Part of
the reason why I'm there.
Yeah.
Because I want to make an impression on them with their dog, among other things. But I'm there to meet their dog, see the dog in their natural environment. Right. See, okay, this and this is happening because the owner's doing this, or their daily structure for their dog laid out like this. It's all wrong, you know.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah. So I'm like taking like mental notes of like all this stuff while I'm there. So there's like in my head, there's like a lot going on. I'm trying to keep them entertained, be a jungle gym for their kid. I'm like analyzing their dog.
Yeah. I know. Well, it's kind of like, it's like a balancing routine, but all of our clients that I see really, really kill it with their sales, like kind of have this in common, right? Where they've done the cost benefit analysis. And to go back to that for a second, and they're like, hey, I know that by doing in-person consultations, I can book out my schedule doing them. I don't need as many leads to do that. And so my advertising cost goes down. And yes, even if you spend $1,000 on gas, but you make $10,000 a month or 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000, so on and so forth. Like that's an insane, even if it's $5,000 a month, if like if you're spending $1,000 on gas and you make $5,000 in return, that it's like you couldn't give Warren Buffett, $1,000 and then within like a couple of weeks make $5,000 back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that once you kind of get over that hurdle and you realize that like the sky is the limit, and this is going to be the most efficient way to do this is closing people face to face. Like I was saying before, that's what everyone has in common. It's like once you're there, they're building a connection that's deeper than just dog training. And at the end of it, people are walking away saying, this is the company that I want to work with.
Yeah. We're very personable with all of our clients. It takes me a long time to hire a trainer. You've been hearing me like 2 months talk about trainer, and I just hired one. I need two. I just hired one. I've interviewed trainers from Texas, New York, all over North Carolina. Like I'm looking for a very, very specific thing to like be integrated into like Cornerstone culture. Because I really feel like the way we do things, the way we communicate with clients, the way the trainers are with each other, the way I am with them and all that is a lot different than a lot of other dog companies.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And so, I want to talk about a couple different things here, but it sounds like just to kind of wrap up this portion of the conversation here. So it sounds like you're getting there, you're reading the file you have on them. You're kind of like saying like the, husband's name is Bob, the wife's name is Susan. That way I can walk in there, shake their hands, introduce myself, know their names. I know the dog's name. Yeah.
Talk to both of them.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't ignore. And that's the other thing is sometimes you can go into a house and not the stereotype, but I feel like usually it's the husband that might be a little bit more standoffish. And so like, I think that it's important to kind of try and bring everybody into the conversation. Like, how do you kind of go about that? If you have somebody who's like, I don't really feel like we need this, that type of thing, but the other person is gung ho about it.
Yeah. Even if you're sitting down with husband and wife and or whatever, and one is doing all the talking and the other one's not, talk to both of them. Don't ever ignore one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always like look at it as like, I challenge myself to be like, how can I win this person over? How can I get them to like actually enter into this conversation and contribute, because they want something too, what they want, they might want cheaper dog training. Right. And that's maybe what they think they want. And so like you can address that head on if you can get them to talk and voice that to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool, man. And then like when it comes to the end of it, like what are you kind of doing? Like how do you typically close people? What is like kind of how you wrap up the consults?
So I don't and I know a lot of people do this. I don't like get to the end of the consult and pull out my square card reader and start pulling out contracts and all that stuff. I know a lot of people do that. But I don't have to. And I think it's because we're able to build such a good relationship with them.
So you just feel confident that it's like, hey, you're committing to doing this. Like, I'll get you that contract over. And I've
only been caught off guard twice.
Yeah.
All the consults we did, I don't know, 100 and something dogs last year. I've only been caught off guard 2 times where I was like, this is a done deal. And it wasn't. Yeah. So
and they could have backed out anyway. They could have come back to you in a week and said, hey, I want my deposit back. But the thing is like, I think what it's important to keep in context for everyone listening to this, that like you have systems in place where those contracts do get sent out pretty quickly, right? It's not like a couple day process. Like you are getting that into their hands. Yeah.
It's streamlined. Yeah. It's quick.
Yeah, exactly.
When I leave there, I'm usually in my car. I'm sending her. I have a girl, Laura, that does sales. I'm shooting her a text and I'm like, hey, 3-week off leash. This is a client, consult's done. Go ahead and send them a deposit invoice.
Yep.
Here's due date, put it out for a week.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that. And I've, out of all the dogs that we've trained, I have only had one that has not paid their invoice. And I've had two that surprised me from consults, and we do a lot of consults.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, the way I have our system set up is they pay a deposit. On there, they get a deposit invoice from the software we use. They pay it, it's automated. It's like boom, it sends them a text. Here's your contract. Super easy, like a page and a half long, name, date, because I already got everything else. And they fill that out, submit, and then like they get a thank you message, like a half a second later, bam, here's a request for vet records. That process is super easy. Load up from your phone, load it from a file, take a picture right there. You do that, bam, onboarding process is complete. Thanks for, you know, choosing Cornerstone K9.
Yeah.
In contact with you very soon, and trainers in contact with them within a day or two.
Right. Exactly.
It's like they're hot, and then we keep that temperature up, and we're just get them through.
Yeah, exactly. It's like pipeline management. You know exactly what stage they're in. It's like, okay, this is the next phase, and there's like automations and stuff to kind of just get them pushed along.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let me ask you this. So, you know, I'd love to talk a little bit about like, you know, your experience working with us and kind of like, you know, having us manage ads for you and like how those leads have been and all that. So if you wouldn't mind, you just mind kind of just walking us through exactly like what it was kind of like before versus like what it's like now having Google ads in place for you.
Yeah, there's a definite spike in business. So once I started, you know, working with you and doing some Google stuff, and I think I started off kind of like on the lower end.
Yeah,
I think is lower end.
Yeah. Well, like what we recommended to get started, but yeah, you've definitely increased it since then because you knew you were getting a good ROI.
Yeah. And I have a conversation with you soon about increasing it again.
All right, we could definitely have that talk. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I use Thumbtack too, and I don't know if a lot of people don't know what Thumbtack is, but it's a lot of the 95% of the leads that come out of there are junk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you were saying to me the other day. You're like, hey, when I get the Google leads, I know these are people because there's intent there, right? Like people are on Google and they're searching dog trainer near me or, you know, dog trainer, you know, city, right? Raleigh, whatever it may be, Sanford. And when you can capitalize on that, there's a lot of intent. That person's looking for a dog trainer in that market. And so they're further down the buying funnel versus somebody who's just like, I mean, Thumbtack, like they do their own marketing. And then the problem is that those leads are also shared with everybody else in the marketplace, you know? So like everyone's getting those, and what can happen is just kind of like a race to the bottom to like, who can be the cheapest, you know, dog trainer.
Yeah. And we work Thumbtack really hard. Like you go on Thumbtack and you look at the ratings, like Cornerstone is always like number one, number two, number one, number two. We have fast response times, but it's just like, it's still profitable on our end, but if you roll in all the phone calls, conversations, the message, this person, we get a lot of these. We'll have a lead come in from Thumbtack, message them, no reply, call, no reply, email, no reply, call them again, no reply. Well, there's 2 or 3 days of, you know, and then they reply back, stop. Like, you messaged us and I paid $14.95 for you.
Exactly.
Please pick up the phone and
give me the time of day. I know. And then, well, it's funny because they're texting stop back because they think it's like an automated thing. And you're like, no, I'm just trying to talk to you and see if I can help.
So that happens a lot too. So if you factor in like the time and all that, then it's like not worth it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah.
If you look at my pipeline, and we have like, I don't know, somewhere between like 20, 30 dogs right now at the end of the pipeline that are done with onboarding. They have training dates coming up, you know, within pretty soon. And you go back through the pipeline, back to where it starts, lead in, and all the categories, look at all the categories in between, lead in and onboarding process complete. It is super heavy with the source code on those little info cards or client cards. at the tail end and
Mhm.
super light with Thumbtack. And then on the front end of it, lead in, super heavy with Thumbtack. It's because those Thumbtack leads, they don't move.
They fall off versus like the Google leads. You're saying they end up being
Yeah.
the ones that are closing because
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's another thing that's important to keep in mind is like there's different places you can get cheap leads, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's all about quality, especially for somebody who's running a business by themselves and they don't have a team to be like sifting through it. And they're trying to be on the road and doing consults, making sales and training dogs, to have to sift through like 30 consult or 30 Thumbtack leads or Bark leads or whatever it may be to try and get that one diamond in the rough versus like, marketing to, running campaigns on say Google or something like that, where that the people are a lot more qualified. It's not that everyone's going to become a client, right? I don't want to come across like that at all, but by and large, you're going to have a much higher caliber lead with that than you are with something like Thumbtack or Bark.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. So like, I'd love to talk about like numbers for a second here. So when we first, do you have any kind of like data, like as far as like where we were like 6 months ago, like versus where we are today and kind of like what the growth has been like, on a monthly basis for you?
So last year, if I look at like just January until I think we started like running stuff with you, like
I think it may have been like in like
May?
no, I think it may have been, I think it may have been in May. Yeah.
So the months leading up to that, I was like 8,000 one month, 13 one month. Then I had a really low month.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I started working with you. I think it was like let's see, May, June, July. Yeah, 3 months. So it was slowly go up, and then August there was a big uptick.
Yeah. I remember you were like, can we do again what we did in August?
Oh yeah. August was like I just looked at my QuickBooks. I want to say it was like 38 or 40.
Yeah, that's a great month, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it ticked down a little bit, and then I was like, Kevin, what's going on? And you're like getting the process, blah blah blah, and then it's just and it did,
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, so you've been seeing consistent growth, and that's like a big thing that I think for a lot of people is like you said, what you were saying before. It always just makes me think of one thing that a lot of dog trainers and companies in general struggle with is just consistency. You can have one $8,000 month, and you have a $13,000 month, and it's like a $4,000 month or something like that, and then it's back up and it's down. And what's so much better is just like having some sort of predictability. And this is why I think it's good to have eggs in a couple different baskets, right? Because if you're only relying on one traffic source, right? And a lot of people do this with word of mouth referrals. They're like, hey, my word of mouth referrals used to be huge, and now just I don't really seem to be getting many leads anymore. And it's like, you want something that you can control, right? You want something that that I can put $1 in and it makes me $10 back. And you don't want to just have to be sitting there waiting for somebody to refer you and just, putting your destiny and your success in somebody else's hands.
Yeah. And we we call clients, we follow up with clients, we do free refreshers.
Yeah.
And I know like people listening, I think, well, they're just wearing themselves out. They're just running around like crazy. We're really not.
Yeah.
It's very organized, and it's very like organized and controlled, and it sounds like a lot, but if you get it all structured right and you get some good processes in place, look, now it sounds like a operations.
Exactly.
You get some good processes in place and everything, and get people trained and like truly understand what all that entails. It's not that bad.
Yeah. And having processes for yourself too. I think that a lot of times people think like, oh, I'll need to have systems and processes when I hire other people, but we all thrive off of structure, right? Like whether we want to admit that or not, and having some sort of structure in place to keep yourself balanced and honest. And like, this is the way that things are done. Not sometimes we do it this way and other times we do it this way, you said this earlier on, and, just to go back to, closing people and selling them, I think you made a really good point. If somebody's calling you and they're saying like, hey, I found out about you through so-and-so, I already kind of know what it costs, we're ready to get started. Don't delay, take that payment over the phone, get them started,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like if anybody else where they're like, hey, I'm just kind of getting started with this and I don't really know what I want yet and all that stuff, don't judge a book by its cover. I cannot tell you guys like how many calls I've gotten onto where people are like, I don't have a lot of money. And they always lead with that. Like, I can't spend a lot of money on this. And then you spend the time talking to them. And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Okay, let's do this. And all of a sudden, like, people can find ways to pay for it if they really want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So always give yourself that opportunity. Like, obviously if someone's giving you massive red flags and they're saying like, I'm homeless, or I, have been on disability for 30 years. I'm on a fixed income. It's like, yes, that's kind of a different story. But the truth is like for everybody else, to me, if you're a good salesperson and you're going to give it your best honest try every single time, like give yourself that opportunity, go meet with them. What's the worst thing that happens? You leave a good impression on them and maybe they refer you to somebody else.
Yeah. I've got a few people that, that we work with that have, a lot of financial issues and stuff like that, and they can't just drop the money. But they'll make payments to me.
Yeah.
And I'll schedule their training out.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, I'll be like, you can schedule it out to the end of next year. I don't care.
Yeah.
Pay whatever you want, whenever you want. I send you a QuickBooks invoice. Here's a link. If you ever lose it, let me know. Click on that link, go in there, type in whatever amount you want. As soon as you get it paid off, if you're getting close to your due date and you're worried you're not going to get it, something happened, just call me. Just shoot a message. We'll shift your date out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, but if you get within like, a month or two, you give me a heads up. So, but things happen.
Most people are, I think that a lot of times trainers and business people in general, like you can get screwed over one time and you can write that all off and you go see like, this doesn't work and people won't pay their bill and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that you have to rely on the fact that like most people are good people and they're not looking to cheat you. And the other thing is like, even if you did get cheated and people screwed you out of money, it's like, you don't cut off your nose to spite your face. It's like, did this end up doing it this way? Did it give you $100,000 business but you lost out on $2,000 from one jerk? It's like, don't stop doing that. The thing that was working before, just because one person was, kind of a sleazeball.
And you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
The biggest one I hear people say is, oh, I only hire experienced trainers, or, oh, I only hire inexperienced trainers. And why? Oh, well, because one screwed me over, or I got screwed over by two of them in the same month, or whatever. I'll never do that again, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, you riding down the road and you run over now and get a flat tire. You drive your car the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're putting yourself in your business into this like very tiny box, and we're like, we only do this. It's like, man, you're gonna have a hard time, and then you're not gonna be able to find that trainer. Person.
Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's you.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to go back and look at your hiring process and learn how to vet out better people that match the culture of the company that you've created. Maybe there's a disconnect. Maybe there's a disconnect there. Maybe you just got unlucky, but maybe there's a disconnect there. You're gonna go back and tear that apart and look at it and rebuild that.
Totally, man. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's like taking accountability and responsibility. And that's something that it's very easy to just look at it the other way and just go like, oh, see, I knew this wasn't work. I've heard from other people, you can never find good help, or, whatever. And it's like, there's other businesses out there that are succeeding and they have great employees and they work hard for you. You're a testament to that. And it's like, you gotta kind of reflect on, maybe you did legitimately get victimized. Maybe something really bad did happen to you. But what I would tell you is like, you got to kind of get back up on the horse and say like, what can I do to protect myself against that again? And what can I do better to ensure that just, doesn't happen? What kind of training and hiring, standards can I have in place? Yeah. Like you said. Yeah.
I mean, if it was just like a perfect storm and you got screwed over twice and you did everything right, well, I mean, I would definitely, go in harder then, because like lightning doesn't strike the same spot like multiple times.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if you've done everything right and you've already got hit once or twice, like in a close period of time, well, dude, you're good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
roll on.
Go play the lottery. You're due for some good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I don't want to keep you all day here. I'm sure you got other things you got to get to, but I always just kind of like to wrap up these calls with this question. So, if you could tell somebody, like if you put yourself back in the shoes that you were in, say like even a year and a half ago, or even when we first started like working together, right? Like for somebody who's in that situation now, like what are some of the things that you would recommend to them? What are some of the things that you've learned along the way? And what's the advice that you would give to that person?
I would tell them to make sure you have a good solid plan. Like don't rush into it, and make sure you think everything out. Don't over plan, because then you'll just procrastinate.
Right.
I did that, Cornerstone should probably be 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. If we're for Janet, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Find you a Janet. In all seriousness, like if you can find like a kind-hearted person that like legitimately wants to help you and is not out for anything like Janet, then you need to like jump on board with that person. Don't run around, and I've never really been one to do this, but I know a lot of people that do, is especially in dog world, because I'm in dog sports too, pretty heavy into that. But don't burn bridges. Don't run around burning bridges.
Yeah.
Don't I see it's a lot of the same individuals on Facebook, and I see it all the time, and I just kind of shake my head. But there's a lot of dog trainers and stuff on Facebook that are always on there talking about dog training is not what it should be, or dog not what it used to be, this, that, blah 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 blah. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
The only reason I see that is because I'm throwing something up of my dogs or something like Cornerstone I come across. But like, you're spending time, don't spend time worrying about what anybody else is doing, because chances are 5-10 years from now, you're not even going to remember that person's name, and they're sure they're not going to remember yours, if they even know yours now.
Yeah, exactly.
Focus on yourself. Life is short. So you got to like focus on yourself and keep whatever you got to do to like motivate yourself to drive forward. And don't pay any attention to what other people are saying. Right.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. Yeah. And
that's fantastic advice.
Yeah. And I ignore all that. That's like more for other people, but I know a lot of people worry about that. I hear a lot of people say, well, all the dog business is cutthroat, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, it is, but stop attaching yourself to like cutthroat people. Like, you got social media now. It's not hard to figure out like who's who, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's business in general sometimes. I mean, Gina is doing like real estate, right? Like it could be that way as well.
Yeah. Don't attach yourselves. If you feel you have to, don't. Find good people, surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
Right. Find yourself a Janet.
Find yourself a Janet. It's that simple. Yeah. But Janet's going to get flooded with messages all of a sudden. Sorry. Apologize ahead of time. But I think that's fantastic advice. And I spoke to somebody one time, a dog trainer who he's been training for a long time, generations. Right. And we were talking about this, how he was like, I've never seen any other industry where people feel so free to go on social media and not only criticize other people, but criticize their clients. And I understand. I mean, like, listen, we all come up against like difficult clients, but what I would tell you is like, people see this, like people see it and they
think they don't,
and they read into that and they're like, this energy is not the type of thing that they want to be, dealing with. They'll just take their business elsewhere. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, no way this client can know I'm talking about them. Yeah, I'm not friends with them. I have been blocked, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but did you like go through that client's entire like friend list?
Yeah.
Sure that you don't have mutual friends, or what's your privacy settings on social media? Is it set to public? So like,
right.
so-and-so's cousin sees that,
Yeah.
and they know about whatever happened, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It gets
Like,
back to people for sure.
keep that shit to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's so true. And then the other thing
Yeah.
too is like other people could just think that you're talking about them too.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And
and-
like even if you didn't intend it that way.
Yeah, like sending a text,
Yeah.
you know, hey, Kevin, good morning. And you can, what's that supposed to mean? What's the exclamation point behind that for?
Yeah,
know?
Exactly. Why'd you put a period instead of an exclamation point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just that's probably one of the biggest things besides like get around good people.
Yeah.
Worry about your business, because you're obviously, if you're trying to do this, this is should be a passion, should be something you thought about for a long time.
Yeah.
You're putting a lot of time and energy and blood and sweat in this. Don't screw it up because you want to jump on social media or even just like talking to people.
Yeah.
Like you need to like take your business and like just guard it, right?
Yeah.
In that aspect. Now, I not in the aspect of, oh no, I can't tell you how I do this. I can't tell you how I do that. Because I work with other dog companies like all the time. Like before we started this call, you're like, hey, you good like talking about it? I'm like, I'll talk about whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So don't be that person. But as far as like the inner workings of it emotionally,
Yeah.
and your clients and stuff like that needs to stay with your LLC or your S Corp or whatever.
Well, yeah. And that's where that whole saying of like, it's not personal, it's business kind of comes in. I know that those things can get intertwined, and it's hard sometimes to not let your emotions take over. But, you know, this is a tip that I would give to everybody, you know, for social media, as much as I am on here and like, you know, getting all of my clients off here and networking with people on here on Facebook and elsewhere, you know, I have a Google Chrome extension that I use that's called Newsfeed Eradicator. And what it does is every time I open up Facebook on my computer, I don't see anything. I don't see like a wall of posts. I don't see my feed. It's just blocked and it just has a quote there. And the reason I do that is, first off, it's so easy to get distracted. You know, I mean, trust me, I would like to think that I have more self-control than to start scrolling and clicking on stuff. But these social media platforms, they're designed to get us to do that, right? There's very high paid psychologists that are paid a lot of money to get us to do that. Yeah. And then you're just going to see stuff that's inevitably going to, you know, upset you. So what I would tell everybody, it's like, do a 30-day detox and tell me you don't feel better.
Yeah. Distraction. Yeah. I know all about that. Like, where's my ADHD peeps at?
Yeah, exactly. You're talking one right now. Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I won't keep you any longer today, man, but we'll have to do another one of these calls again. I sincerely appreciate you getting on the call with me today. Yeah. And is there anything else you want to plug or you want to talk about or anything like that?
No, I'll save it for next time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jeff, I appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon. Okay.
All right, buddy.
All right, man. Catch you.
Bye.